welcome back to another live stream of Digital Oil and Gas. My name is Geoffrey Cann, host of this live stream service. And today I am delighted to be in conversation with Brandon Ambrose, who is the CEO of ezops, a Canadian technology company. And we're going to talk through the challenges and questions of the digital oil field worker of the future. We are under great pains as an industry today to address environmental sensitivities, activism of all kinds, as well as policy choices made by governments around the world related to our energy use. And all of this is creating tremendous pressure on the frontline workers who are working day in and day out to make sure that our current fuel supplies are secure. So let me bring Brandon onto the screen. By the way, we're live. We should be live on, we're definitely live on YouTube. I can see the screen working. I'm not sure about LinkedIn, but we did set up the broadcast. Fingers crossed with technology that is working. But Brandon, welcome to the live stream today.
Thanks, Geoffrey. Happy to join you again.
And where are you calling in from today? You're in Alberta somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, northern Alberta. I'm a boots on the ground, frontline operator by trade.
Yes, your background's actually fascinating. I spent my life on the commercial side of IT, so working in a corporate, but your distinctive background is actual frontline work. Which means you have this kind of interesting position. You're able to bridge neatly between the challenges of the frontline individuals and then the realities of this business, and now you're an entrepreneur in that regard. How are ops teams wrestling with digital adoption these days in the field?
Yeah, so from our perspective, it's faster than you might think, given the nature of our industry. Digital advancements and understanding in our industry is happening in many different ways. Lots of producers are, they might hire firms to help build out or vet digital innovations. Other ones are relying on vendors such as ezops to kind of help educate on how they can help the producers.
Walk through for me, what is it actually like as an oil field worker today? What does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so I'll speak for I guess to my experience, and I think it's certainly relevant here in Canada, and I think the rest of the world. But typically it's left to the frontline worker to get up in the morning and take all of this fragmented data in to decide what he's going to go do in his day. And to shine a little bit of context on that is in North America, on average, each frontline worker is in control of about $8.5 million each year. There's about 1.5 million of that's OPEX, and about 7 million of that is commodity that they're pulling out of the ground. It's an incredible amount of money. And so as I mentioned, kind of step one, they're waking up in the morning, they're looking at all of their fragmented data sources such as SCADA systems, charts on the wall. Then they're deciding what they're going to do in a day. The next step after that is collaborating with your team. It's getting them up to speed. Pre-COVID, there was a lot of face-to-face morning meetings or cross-shift handoffs, but team collaboration comes in all different ways. Whether it's text messages, emails, notes, run sheets, binders. It's really just getting everyone up to speed on your perception on what's the best use of your time that day to have the most impact on the corporation that you're working for. Following that, there's a lot of drive time in the oil and gas industry. Lots of frontline operators are driving hundreds of miles every day, and that direction or decision to take on different events in the field is based on how they computed that fragmented data and prioritized their life. So they need to drive to all of those locations to take action on those events. And followed by that, these frontline teams are working very hard. There's muddy, snowy conditions, and they're taking action and based on their perceived understanding of the tasks that they think they should best be doing, and they're working hard to try to get the most profitability for the producers taking those actions. And then finally, anything that they can't fix themselves, it's typically on them or on mid-level management to be prioritizing third-party contractors to come out and fix these problems that they can't solve, and that's to keep the field operations running smoothly. So yeah, just to kind of recap, they're consolidating this fragmented data, they're collaborating with teams, they're driving out to these physical locations to do this hard work, and they're working hard because they want to create job security for themselves. And then they're managing, the rest of the field aspects, whether that's, trucking or third-party contractors or, PMs, et cetera. And that kind of all lands on them. So it's a day in the life of field operations in 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's what's interesting is it's this curious combination of a massive amount of information that the frontline teams have to themselves personally synthesize so that they can actually make appropriate day-to-day choices about how to spend their time best. And then the physical work of actually your vision of the digital oil field worker of the future.
As I mentioned earlier, I've been obsessed about efficiency since I was really young, and that's translated into millions of dollars of savings for upstream producers when I've gotten to implement those obsessions. So when I talk about the digital oil field worker of the future, I'm talking specifically about the frontline and mid-level management in the upstream oil and gas space. And so with that context in mind, I see the digital oil field worker of the future. I see them augmented with machine intelligence to ensure that every action they make is in alignment with the corporate, financial, and environmental goals. And if you let me go deep enough on that, I also believe that oil field workers of the future, that defined there, should be compensated not solely on how many hours they are contributing, but how much value and hard work they're bringing to the company. And there's ways to track that. And the goal and the underlying goal there is to just create alignment and clarity so that you're driving maximum value for the producer, just creating alignment throughout that organization. Because as you can see in the day in the life of scenario that I mentioned, it's kind of an old school management style. It requires a lot of layers of management to ensure that these important events aren't slipping through the cracks. So I also believe that the digital oil field of the future adopts a new management style. This couples teams with technology. It allows computers to compute the data and make data-driven suggestions, while enabling and empowering these frontline workers that have these decades of experience to contribute their human intuition and overlay that together. This new management style does incorporate the buzz phrase "operate by exception," but the digital oil field of the future is it's an AI-assisted asset management. Operate by exception is just a small step, I think, in that, and I just like to paint that picture when I'm having discussions, because it's you need to have the end in mind when you're going to go somewhere.
Yeah, I tell a story of when I do mountain climbing with people. You should never tell people about how hard the journey is going to be to climb the mountain. You tell them this is the view from the top, because the view from the top is what inspires people to want to drive change and do change, which is really important. I mean, it feels to me like there are significant benefits to operators, to contractors, employees, even to society. Reduction in driving alone would drive some benefits. But why is it so hard? Why is it so difficult to make progress in driving these changes in our industry?
Well, quite frankly, the industry was hit by a train, between record low prices, COVID, work changing, new emissions regulations. Producers are forced to do more with a lot less. This means that head office and field are stretched thin, and they don't really have the capacity or budget to stitch together any kind of solutions to help them. Adding to this, most producers have already been burnt from a niche solution that was built by an outsider promising to solve solutions or solve problems that they didn't really know anything about.
Yeah, and just in thinking through what this kind of call it the solution of the future, what that might look like if it's not something that's driven from head office. What do you see it looking like?
Well, we are seeing, what works better than these niche one-off solutions that typically are provided from head office. Is it's important to have a platform that truly understands the problems that they're trying to solve. For instance, if your corporate goals are, what's listed, maximizing revenue or having the lowest OPEX possible, having a low carbon impact and accurate regulation reporting, you need to start with these really high level objectives in mind and get a solution that accomplishes that basically creates alignment across your entire team, and gets everyone stroking together to accomplish those objectives. And this is what we do with ezops. We know that the power of the field teams, when you clearly let them know what needs to happen and what they can do to contribute to bottom line success. As an operator myself, we want the corporation to be successful. We want a healthy organization that delivers job security to our families. And if you can deliver that clarity of what needs to be done to have an impact, that and alignment, get everyone stroking together for the common goal. We have some incredible assets in the field, and I think that too often they get overlooked on the value they can bring. We've really focused on, we believe that at the end, if you want to create the most optimal field, it's coupling technology and teams. It's not just technology. And that's where we really look at this solution a little bit differently. We're really going in first with the frontline worker in mind and creating value for them. And then as a derivative of that, you get all of the value in the corporation that just flows through. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the challenge of making the shift. I was meeting with an oil company recently, and they said, we have some we have to create this strange balance between holding on to our very senior, very experienced professionals, and then this newer, younger crowd. And is there how do you deal with that? Is there a need to move some of our less open, less flexible workers along in their careers at this stage, or is there a balance that we might be able to strike?
Typically, those older fellas that aren't agreeing with the digital solutions to help them do their job better, they've been burnt by another solution. Typically, those solutions have been forced down on them by their head office with good intentions, trying to solve their problems for them. And we have found that if you understand your users first and bring value to them first and ensure that they're receiving it, everyone is open and excited to increase the contribution they can make to the corporation, because this in turn creates job security for them. So I think if you're for what we found, as long as you're doing it correctly, if we're getting pushback, we're not doing our job. That means that they're not receiving value, and that means that we're not doing our job.
This is from Era Business. I'll just read it out. Is there market opportunities on changing how people work in oil and gas? Is there a possibility for a change in the system? And this gets into the question of, how do we improve collaboration and less win-lose throughout the supply chain? What's your perspectives there?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess my answer is yes. That's a horrible answer. No, I think that there's a huge amount of opportunity for that. If you look back on the why we're managing our operations the way we are, it's because there was a lack of technology, and we really haven't updated our processes to match the technology that's available to us. So that's kind of that's what we focus on, is making sure that the workflow processes are in tune and in line with the technology that's available, the data that's available. Make sure that everyone is making the best decisions possible to have an impact for the organization.
Although they talk about the digital oilfield worker is still more rare than the common than you'd find, but clearly transition is happening here quite quickly. The pandemic is helping to drive that because of the social distance, how fast and what's the pace of change? Are we going far enough? How much further can we go? These sorts of things.
Yeah, so early adopters are moving very fast. Just over a year, our users now represent about 10% of the Canadian oil and gas space, and there's innovative solutions just like ezops that are developing some very compelling case studies, and the lagging producers are starting to catch on. So our focus is that, within 3 months, our clients are seeing the impacts against their objectives that we've defined, and they're ensuring that they're able to maximize their production. They're seeing a lower OPEX reduction in GHG emissions and things like that. So I really believe that over the next 5 to 10 years, teams and technology will be synergized in creating some of the cleanest and most profitable hydrocarbons in the world. We're very excited to be a part of that.
Yeah, Canada and Canadian business has a lot to offer the world, actually, in delivery and prosecuting these opportunities. A couple other questions coming in. This was from Keith. Are there opportunities to interface ezops through APIs to some of that legacy stack of infrastructure that's in place? You mentioned, because we talked about the corporate systems that are in place and some older field systems. How do you handle that integration problem?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it kind of flows into our philosophy. So we believe that we're really good at interfacing with frontline workers. That's our domain expertise. We understand what frontline workers need to do, and we can help prioritize them to gain this value of maximizing production, lowering OPEX, and driving GHG reduction. But we're not the best at everything else. We don't want to be the best at everything else. So that's actually, my ask to the energy tech ecosystem is reach out. We really want to be collaborating with other innovative solutions that have domain expertise in a specific place. So that also speaks to legacy systems that have data. What I'm trying to say is, there isn't going to be one solution that solves all of this. There needs to be, in our opinion, one solution that interfaces with frontline workers, because we all don't want 5 different logins. Yeah. But we need to have other innovative solutions out there doing some of the heavy lifting that they're very good at. We want to be receiving the data that can help ensure that frontline workers are being the most effective possible. And obviously, because we have it in a digital format, we can also send that data out that other solutions might be able to leverage to drive value in other aspects of the business. So APIs are very, very important in our operation.
A question here from Greg, who's curious about how you work with a new customer, and I'm going to read in between the lines here. But what does adoption actually look like? What's the experience? And is it intrusive? Is it easy? How fast is the typical uptake? These questions. Because things that take a long time to have an impact are not very appealing to oil and gas.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So what we do is, it's a bit of a digital adoption isn't a get rich quick scheme or anything like that. There's a process to it that we follow. Step one is getting clear on the goals and objectives. We need to do some discovery with your field team and understand and focus on what value they need to see. There's always been a common theme. Most likely we could go there and understand what their objectives and what value they need to see and all of that stuff. But it's very important to have that engagement with them and understand what their pain points are as a person. And how do we solve that? Step one, full stop, get users value first. Once we have that lined out, step two is that we start implementing modules that drive corporate value. But you get that buy-in first, you get that adoption. And that's why we're currently sitting at 100% adoption, is because we have this systematic approach of looking at frontline users value first. And then as far as like a time frame, it really depends on the corporation. We've seen producers that, within a couple of weeks, they're seeing value. And then we see producers that might take many months to scale up. over.
Let's bring this to a quick close here, and I'll just pull up a kind of a last a slide. If people want to learn more about ezops and where and how do they track you down?
Perfect. Yeah. Please, reach out directly. Our team is very skilled. Also on our website, you can take a look at a case study that was published.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on the live stream today, and thank you to the audience out there in the ether that's been kind enough to fire some questions at us. Turns out we were live, yay, on both LinkedIn and YouTube. Despite my early misgivings, it popped up on the screen, so we're great. I hope you all enjoyed this podcast, and by all means, join me in the future for a subsequent one. Just keep an eye on Digital Oil and Gas on YouTube. Or track me down on LinkedIn, and the announcement about the live streams will pop up on your screen. And I will return sometime in the near future with another episode. So that brings this to a wrap. Bye for now.